Welcome to NewsDecoded, your trusted source for stories that truly matter. If you're looking for bold reporting, fearless commentary, and honest conversation, you've come to the right place. So if you haven't already, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay informed with NewsDecoded. Now let's dive in. We begin with a startling and chaotic moment that unfolded on live television just moments ago. Kevin Hassett, one of the economic advisors under the Trump administration, appeared completely unprepared and visibly distressed when pressed on the controversial 50% tariff placed on Brazilian imports. This exchange wasn't just uncomfortable, it was revealing. It illustrated the troubling lack of expertise and strategic thought driving some of the highest levels of decision-making in the former administration.
The conversation centered around the president's frustration with Brazil, particularly with how the Brazilian Supreme Court handled the criminal case involving former President Jair Bolsonaro. While the official White House line tried to paint the tariffs as part of a broader economic strategy to prepare the United States for a golden age, it quickly became apparent that personal grievances and diplomatic retaliation played a central role.
When pressed on what legal authority allows a United States president to impose such extreme tariffs based on dissatisfaction with another country's judicial system, Hassett stumbled. He vaguely referenced national security provisions, but honestly, he couldn't draw a clear line between Brazil's handling of Bolsonaro's case and any imminent threat to American national interests. Instead, the response was disjointed, filled with contradictions, and completely lacking in credible justification. The moment exposed how loyalty to leadership had overtaken qualification and critical reasoning.
In parallel to this economic mess, another disturbing allegation is gaining renewed attention. Author and journalist Michael Wolff recently claimed that the late Jeffrey Epstein had shown him a series of Polaroid photos implicating Donald Trump in deeply troubling behavior. These images, Wolff alleges, showed Trump posing with topless underage girls by Epstein's infamous poolside. According to Wolff, the collection contained at least a dozen pictures, some of which included Trump sitting with girls on his lap and others showing inappropriate conduct, such as a photo with a suspicious stain on his pants while the girls laughed. Wolff stated that he believes Epstein kept these photos in a safe that was later emptied by the FBI. The question now is, where are these photos? And if they do exist, what kind of power did Epstein hold over the political and financial elite? The growing sense of unease is palpable. It paints a picture of a government that was not only poorly staffed, but also mired in scandal, moral ambiguity, and secrecy. And while many dismissed these stories as conspiracies or partisan attacks in the past, the weight of cumulative evidence is becoming impossible to ignore.
Perhaps the most telling reactions are now coming from Trump supporters themselves. Several of them are publicly expressing regret for supporting him in the first place. One striking case involved a popular reggaeton artist from the Latino community, known for once supporting Trump.
So, I've recently faced some legal troubles myself, and I actually reported from inside a Miami-Dade detention facility. Honestly, I have to say the place was just inhumane. We're talking about overcrowded conditions, barely any clean water, and believe it or not, food with maggots in it. It really paints a grim picture of what people are enduring inside these American detention centers, even folks who actually have legal residency. I spoke to one man who told me he hadn't bathed in days. And then there was another who said the lights were never turned off, mosquitoes were everywhere, and food was only served once a day. And it was usually spoiled or contaminated. These stories, they aren't just about immigration or legal status, they're about how policies are really impacting real people in real ways. And a lot of those affected are starting to realize that the leaders they put their trust in aren't really protecting them at all.
Another telling story comes from Chris Landry, a longtime New Hampshire resident and father of 5. After returning from a family vacation to Canada, he was denied re-entry into the United States. Despite having lived in the U.S. since he was a child and having no recent criminal record, Landry was held up at the border. He now believes that the new wave of policies under the Trump administration contributed directly to his predicament. Landry admits that he had minor run-ins with the law in the early 2000s, charges related to marijuana possession and driving with a suspended license, but he served his sentence, paid his fines, and moved on. Or so he thought, until now. It turns out, under the Trump administration's hardline stance, past offenses that were once considered minor can now be grounds for detention or deportation. The very system he once believed in has now turned against him, leaving his family in limbo. And these stories are multiplying. Across the nation, families are being torn apart. People are realizing that voting for someone because of lofty promises or catchy slogans can have dire consequences when those in power begin enacting unchecked and extreme policies. All of this leads us back to a central truth. When political leadership is driven more by personal loyalty than professional qualification, the country suffers. When scandals are buried instead of investigated, and when voices of dissent are ignored instead of heard, democracy begins to erode. The Trump administration marketed itself as a revolutionary force, draining the swamp, shaking up Washington, and putting America first. But what we're seeing in hindsight is that the revolution may have only empowered those least prepared to lead. What emerged instead was chaos, corruption, and a culture of fear. It's no longer enough to brush off these concerns as partisan attacks or media bias. Real people are facing the consequences, economically, socially, and personally. And while some may have supported Trump believing he would bring change, many are waking up to the reality that the cost of that change was far too high. At NewsDecoded, we believe in facing the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. We believe in accountability, in fact-based reporting, and in giving a platform to voices who are often ignored or dismissed. If you value this kind of journalism, now is the time to support it. Be sure to like this video if you found it informative, leave a comment below to share your thoughts, and most importantly, subscribe to NewsDecoded so you never miss a story that matters. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next report, only here on NewsDecoded.